welcome to Talking TSM, the Game House's talk show about TSM's LCS team. I'm Robert Haynes, your host and your guide into the world of TSM's LCS team. And we have something to celebrate this week. We have something to celebrate. Who would have guessed? TSM pull off a huge dub over the weekend. We will get to that. We're going to discuss how everybody looked this weekend. We're going to talk a little bit about Huni as well. So make sure you stick around. Geez, man. Okay, so game one of this weekend was not ideal, I would say. Going up against Cloud9, TSM's, first game with this brand new roster. And it felt like they never had control of this game at any point. They did get first blood, which was great. Spica and Maple connecting pretty well there. But, I guess I'll start with the draft, actually. I like what we did here. Banning the Lucian, taking that away from Berserker, banning the Twitch, taking that away from Sven, realistically, because that gave him a really easy, game to play on the Yuumi. And then the Udyr seems like it was more of a, I didn't love that kind of a pick or ban, but because I think Udyr's pretty beatable right now, but I guess they were just really afraid of Blabber's Udyr. They must have been hearing stories about it during scrims these last couple weeks, so maybe I guess they decided to take it out. Taking out the Gragas as well, the Azir, not bad. I generally liked our draft not too badly. A lot of people were claiming that we picked a lot of losing lanes and all this other stuff. We had seen what Shyvana did to Gangplank. Now, while Gangplank scales really well, Shyvana does too, just in terms of more being a tank, though. She doesn't scale well in terms of being a damage dealer, but with her tank build right now, she eventually just becomes so tanky that it's just you add that plus Demonic Embrace, and she is just terrifying to play against. I didn't love Soul's build here, to be honest with you. I don't really know that I love the Ionian boots. I feel like with the amount of AD that was coming out and that being the prominent amount of damage, I really think he should have gone with the armor boots, but that's a little nitpicky, I guess. It's funny because, he gets 3-man dove and he's just able to waste a bunch of time while the bot lane takes things. The problem is that he did lose a lot of CS. And in reality, it probably would have been better for him to just die and then try to get back to lane a little bit quicker so that the lane wouldn't be so far behind. He still did well, but he almost got Flame Horizoned in his first game with Fudge just playing out of his mind, honestly. He was pretty good. This was a pretty good reminder of how good Fudge can be and why he is probably one of the best top laners in the LCS. This game overall was good for Cloud9. I mean, they played really well. I think from start to finish. I liked the Amumu pick from Sven. He played, I think, extremely well with his pick, and I liked our draft, but I liked theirs a little bit more. The Gangplank scaling well. Volibear is really strong on this patch. I think he should be getting played a lot more often. Blabber piloted him very well. Jensen's LeBlanc was pretty bad, honestly. He did not look good at all. He got caught out a couple times too. He was fine, but it wasn't great. Berserker obviously looked great, and I don't feel like the bot lane was as much of a gap as people were thinking it was going to be in this game either. Instinct felt very comfortable on the Zeri, and it seems to be, it is a good champion for him, as we will discuss here a little bit later. I really didn't mind Chime's Renata either. I think he was positioning himself pretty well early on. It was once the game was over, he was trying to, I think, set up some bigger plays than maybe was necessary. But I liked the early game stuff. He was able to save Instinct at least once, maybe twice too, with handshakes. So there was some good stuff that I think came out of this, honestly. And Maple, yeah, he died 7 times. To be fair, I think a lot of those were kind of, again, when the game was pretty much over at that point. We didn't set up around the Drakes very well at all, obviously. And, everybody's going to meme and be like, oh, they only got 1 tower and Soul was running around with his head cut off and blah, blah, blah. But, like, when I watched this game, it felt like not as bad as I would have expected. They were still fighting. They did a decent job considering, probably the nerves of 3 brand new players. Spica felt relevant mostly. I don't know that the Viego's that strong right now. His win rate, I think, is plummeting pretty hard right now. I'd have to actually, I'm going to check that because that seems to be the case right now. I think around the world, but yeah, I'm not loving what I'm seeing. Yeah, Viego's win rate right now has dropped to a 55%. I would love to see what was this just this week. So let's see here. That would be 16th through the 17th. I guess he won 3 of his 6 games, so maybe it's not that bad. I don't know. It just felt for some reason like there was something that was missing. It didn't feel great to me. I was very much underwhelmed. Not even by his performance in general, like his performance in particular, I should say, but in general, it just feels like Viego's not the play. But I am more than happy to admit that I may be wrong on that I may have the bad read on it. So yeah, we'll just have to see. I don't know. But it feels like the Viego is not as strong without, I think, some extra bits. But regardless, this game again. Listen. If they were running the same 5 players out there, right? If this was Huni, Spica, Maple, Tactical, and Mia out there, I would have been pretty upset with this game. I would have been like, man, this team sucks. Like, this is not good. But when you consider Soul got smacked, by the wallet, by just a better player, and clearly didn't play with a lot of confidence in this game, that was unfortunate, but it was good for him, I think, to get this out of the way, right? And especially against a good team. I'd honestly rather them play a team like Cloud9, who I fully expected them to lose against anyways, than play a team that's not very good, and then you lose, and you're like, oh, well, crap. Like, Huni said it on the desk. He goes, you just GG go next on this one. Like, you're expected to lose. That's okay. And that was my feeling for this. Like I said, I think on the Thursday show, anything other than a double stomping was going to be positive for me. I felt like this team is good. They are going to play well. And yeah, it just, to me, truly, it felt like we had an opportunity to at least keep the game kind of close in the early game until Soul really just fell too far behind. It's not just his fault, mind you, but once Fudge got ahead on Gangplank, you already know that SOB is going to be scaling like crazy. It didn't really matter. So, yeah, good stuff. As much as you could count for on the Cloud9 game. But then we go into the FlyQuest game, okay? And this is just such a good strategy. This is the first time I really can say that I felt like TSM drafted, well, better than their opponents. I like what they had going on, okay? So, we banned the Lulu from Aphromoo, which is fine with me. You ban the Lucian because that takes away the Nami, Lucian combo. So you're already taking away, I think, two, because Kog'Maw's been used a little bit too, and they ended up playing the Jinx. So Lulu's, I think, in a pretty good spot right now. So I think either of those, you're taking away those, and then you take away kind of the Yumi comp too, with the Twitch. And so I like that. You are finding a place where I think you can attack in a game like this, and one where it's going to give you the advantage, because now I think teams are eventually going to ban the Zeri from Instinct. I just think that's clearly one of his best champions and most comfortable champions. I would hope that TSM are preparing him for other picks this week, because I think that's going to get banned. But regardless, you're putting him into the best position to be able to pick something, I think, really strong. Then, they end up picking, I believe it was, I don't remember exactly what the order was, but, anyways, so, FlyQuest, I think, had weird bans here, banning the Sylas. I don't really think Maple was going to play Sylas. I guess maybe they were worried about it with their comp, but if you're going to pick the Corki anyways, then I don't really care about that. Seraphine, she's super strong. I think you just have to ban her right now, but I doubt we were going to play her, to be honest. It just doesn't seem like something we were going to play. And then Yone, obviously, they were afraid of Sol playing the Yone. I wouldn't be that afraid of him playing Yone right now. I think that's a really weird ban until you see him actually come out and do it. And sure, one team will eventually regret it if he comes out and he just pops off, but that's also a pretty easy champion to punish, especially early game without his ult. So, whatever. Then the Trundle, Tahm Kench, Renata, and J4. I didn't love their reasoning for the J4 ban. So I guess the Xin Zhao came through later, which is fine with me. I think they did do Xin Zhao and Swain in our second rounds of picks, but yeah, their bans were fine. I mean, the Trundle, it's I guess that's not too bad. I think they did pick the Sejuani and the Nautilus in the early portion, but I don't know. It was kind of interesting to see, because I loved our into Sejuani. I really like the Gnar, especially I don't like Gnar. I've made that very clear on here. I don't think Gnar is very good. He continuously is creeping in. I would love to see actually what is Gnar's win rate now. I think it's gotten better recently, but it was still pretty bad. Yeah, it's still only 41%. That's in 17 games. It's the most picked. He's feeling stronger this week than he did before. I don't know why exactly, but even in the LEC, I was noticing this champion feels a little bit stronger than maybe he was. And maybe it's just because teams aren't punishing, the Gnar for over pushing, but I don't know. It's good. It's good stuff. So, I like the play into Philip. Honestly, I think it's I think it's a confidence pick. You're picking a winning lane, and you are picking something that may not necessarily scale as well, but who really cares? When you look at, I think what you want out of Sejuani is you want her to be able to freeze people and use her ult, impactfully while taking damage. I think with the Gnar, you can split push a little bit, and you're able to, if you're smart, play around the Gnar ultimate, Big Gnar, and he can have impactful ultimates. And in this game, Sol was extremely impactful. He had a great CS lead. I would have liked it more. He seemingly was still nervous and missed a lot of CS. He probably should have had 300 CS in this game. Not even going to lie to you. I feel like that should have been the minimum for him. But he missed a lot, and that's fine, whatever. He played, I think, the matchup pretty well. He really should have had a bigger lead on Philip, but it didn't matter because, he eventually comes in with a super awesome TP, throws him into the wall in that corridor that they were talking about, right? That red side, red buff corridor, red buff chicken corridor where we have had, it's always there in Rift Herald where we are just having our worst times, and it's a hell of a TP. And I cannot believe Philip didn't try to go find him. Philip was trying to make the move up there first. I guess maybe to try to beat Seoul there, but you're never going to beat him there. I just that seems like a really silly play to me because I think TSM lose that fight without the play from Seoul, honestly. And maybe this game's a little bit different, without that. They're able to kill Jose Dioto and Takui. I believe it was Takui in that, or maybe it was Aframo. I don't remember, but he throws him into the wall, and it was kind of like, oh shit, like that's not good. And then like Spica and Maple were running around really well. People are saying, maybe Maple wasn't all that impactful. I actually felt he was really impactful in terms of his vision when he was using the Swain W. I also think he hit an abnormal amount of Never Roots, the E, the claw. That felt like it was really good. His ultimates weren't great, I will say, but he did a good job, I think, zoning when he needed to. And then, Chime was... I'm glad Chime got player of the game, man. He played out of his mind. He was constantly in a position to set the team up. And I kind of liked the secret agent Rakan feel that he had. Once he felt like the team was in a good enough place to where he didn't have to frontline or anything because, in all reality, like, this team didn't really have a tank at all. Like, sure, you have Meganar. Yes, like... Spica ended up going tanky, which I think was interesting that he ended up going with the Iceborne Gauntlet. I will admit, I can't say I've seen this build yet on Xin Zhao. I like the concept behind it. I think it is pretty good into their team where, they don't have any AP threats really. You're able to, I don't know, I guess you're able to get the slows onto the Jinx and to the Viego. So maybe I don't know. Let me kind of want to look at the item again. But anyways, so it was an interesting decision. It looks like the Chempunk chainsaw is also in the meta. But Spica, I would have loved for him to not get as many kills. I would have loved for it to be everybody else. But that's who he is. He's going to get kills. He's not even stealing them or anything either. I mean, he's just good. He's just playing really well. But the secret agent Rakan by Chime was just awesome. Sure, he got sniffed out, but it's like I'm in such a my team is in such a good position, and you're going to try to focus me so hard. I'm playing one of the slipperiest champions in the game, so it doesn't really matter. I loved it, and then we get the instinct pentakill too, which was great. It had to be such a huge confidence boost for him, and it's so interesting listening to him in his interviews because even when I was, interviewing him myself, like he is just kind of like, he reminds me, he has a similar mindset as Danny, like in the sense of just, he's just going to go in there, he's going to play. If he sees an angle, he's going to take it. Like he's not the personality that Soul is, but that's okay. I mean, this team played well. They played around the dragons well. They played, I think they got both Rift Heralds. No, they got one, but they played around that really well. Their early game, the whole thing for them was just shut down the early game, which I think was super smart. They played champions that was really hard for FlyQuest to get any sort of an early game lead at all. And sure, they scaled. I guess actually it was more than us. They scaled, but whatever. I mean, I think the Zeri and the Swain scaled just as well as the Corki and the Jinx, especially if you have somebody jumping in on them and nobody really to stop them. So I don't know. It felt good. I like. I don't know that my analysis there was actually that good. They did scale a lot better than us. I think we just picked good times to ult in, good times for Spica to jump in, and got clutch plays from Soul, Instinct, and Chime, your three players that you were most worried about. So I really liked what they did, and the confidence was there. And I like, if you can pick at least two winning lanes, I think that's a good draft. Felt like FlyQuest were really on their back foot this entire time, and I appreciate that. When you can give Spica the chance to go wherever the hell he wants to, that's a good day. That's a good day. That's what you want. And even with, bot lane getting pushed in, like it felt like once Instinct made a couple nice plays down there to keep himself alive, it was kind of over. They just couldn't get a lead. The fact that they only give up 2 towers and 1 kill, I mean, that's a dominant victory. That's not just like they got a couple things that went their way and they they seemingly had this game in the bag. I mean, it was pretty close, but they never really had a. They were never really too far behind. They were stacking dragons, and by the time that I think FlyQuest felt like they were going to need to do something, TSM were just starting to roll. They had set everything up too well, and I'm sure Spica's shot calling is good. It sounds like Chime is actually shot calling a little bit. I'm there's a lot of positives from this game, and the fact that Seoul took Nar for this first time ever, whether it be amateur or I think it was amateur or I'm gonna look this up. I thought that they had said that this was his first stage game technically. Let me see. Seoul TSM. I want to say this might have been his first ever NAR game that they have calculated. Let's see. Yep. That was his first NAR game ever as a amateur and up. The Amateur Academy and now LCS. And he pulls out and he looks comfortable on it. Again, he wasn't great, but he was good. He was really solid. There were a lot of things I think he kind of missed a little bit. I think if they had gone up to punish him, he probably, yes, he does have that one ward early in the game that saves him. Again, just playing by feel, which I think is great. He didn't get much attention top either, which is great. So, I mean, that's really good to see. That's really, really good to see. You bring out a new weapon in your arsenal, and you're like, hey, I can play the Gnar. And I can do it against Philip, who looked really good heading into this game. He looked really confident, and you're like, oh, Philip might be one of the next great top laners, in the LCS. Seoul says, hey, don't you forget about me. I got one of the best top lane coaches in the LCS. I love it. I think this was really good. I think TSM played really well, and there's a lot of good implications to come from this game too. The fact that we get a win here puts us at 3-6. Okay, before I jump into that though, I do want to talk about Huni real quick, and then we'll talk about the implications from this game and stuff. I think first off, TSM finally kind of maybe looking into hey, positional coaches are actually potentially a really good thing for this team. And I think Huni might be a solid assistant. He was so entertaining on the desk and in the analyst, room as well. Because they don't have a desk now, so I guess it's kind of a room. But at the casting desk, he was entertaining. The guy is an entertainer. He loves to be funny and show his personality. If he is truly going to retire, I think he should either look there, or he seems like he really is passionate about coaching. I think his maturity may not be there necessarily as a coach, but as an analyst or an assistant coach, specifically a positional coach, if I'm TSM and I see Seoul playing as well, you could tell his development from game 1 to game 2. He really, it seemed communicated well. He already seemed like he understood his matchup pretty well there. And yes, confidence was there, which I don't think it was against Fudge. I want to see him play with that confidence all the time, right? Just understand that, he was confident because he had already beat Philip. So I think he was yeah, I can do this. He should believe that about himself in every game, and that's I think gonna do wonders for him. But I'm sure Huni gave him some good words after Cloud9 game and was like, hey, you got to learn from this. Here's what you'll do. Here's what we'll do here, blah, blah, blah. And I think he is, I think Huni's going to add a lot to what Soul's game is. And I really feel like if TSM can kind of sign him and keep Huni around, there's a better chance that Spica stays. I know he had that interview where he was like, I'm just going to play my heart out or my hardest and, try to show all these teams, that I'm still really good. I don't blame him for that. It's been really rough at TSM for the last 8 to 12 months. It really has been. I can't fully blame him for wanting to potentially explore his options. Now, again, I realistically think the only option is TL. I think there's a good chance that he may be available, and TSM may have to go with somebody like Santorin, honestly. That may end up being the case. Because I just don't think you want to pair this team with a young jungler yet. I don't know. But I do think that if this team starts to find some success, I think if they say, hey, we're going to keep Huni around and look at these young guys who are coming up too, who are making plays. Soul's looking, good. Instinct's looking good. Chime is great. And Maple, you like playing with Maple, right? Like, if we develop this roster a little bit more, hey, maybe this could be really good for us. It's only 2 games in, and yes, a win was just massive, but there's a world where you keep Huni as an assistant coach, you hire a new head coach, because I still don't think Chawi's it, honestly, after the drafts that I've seen. But there's a world where it's like, okay, maybe Spica's like, you know what? Like, I'm the face of the franchise here. I can win games. I got a young team to play with, to come up with. It's not hard to make an argument for him to stay, especially if they're going to pay him pretty well, which I would assume that they will. The argument would be obviously that, well, TL can help give him all this money and blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the deal, guys. TL are still 6-3, sure, but they're losing to not great teams, so including TSM. So not that we're going to beat them again. I would be shocked if we did, but I don't know. There's an argument to be made that maybe he'll stick around, and Huni, I think, could potentially be a big part of that. And if nothing else, I think Huni likes TSM. He seems to be comfortable here. He's kind of said it even on the broadcast desk, which, again, he sounded awesome, and I hope he does that on occasion too. But, if they want Soul to be good, to be great even, then I think you keep him with Huni for one more year. And you say, hey, Huni, we'd really like to keep you around for one more year. We would love for you to, coach this team, and then maybe, transition him into a head coaching of amateur if that's something he's passionate about or something like that. I don't know. Like, his situation is very interesting for this team. And if Soul can show the kind of development that he did between 2 games, I mean, he really did look confident, better. Like, sure, the matchup was advantageous for him. I understand that. But he was playing around the map well. You could tell he was playing around his teammates well. He was communicating well with his Narbar and everything. Like, there was... I really think he put himself into a good position in this second game and played with confidence and played with an understanding of the champion, the matchup, and what the team needed him to do. Is he going to do that every game? No. But this game he did, and that shows to me growth already, which is crazy. So good for Huni, good for Soul. And hopefully good for all of TSM and Spica. Like, hopefully this is like the beginning of like, oh, wait, maybe this isn't the end of the world for TSM. I would like to remind everybody, Soul is... Let me make sure here. Oh, I got to pull this up on something else. 1 second. Sorry, guys. Players. TSM. Instinct is 17 years old until... Oh, nope, he just turned 18. So, happy birthday to him from 4 days ago. And then Soul is also 18. I know that. I just don't remember when his birthday is. So, you got 2 really young guys who just performed well on stage. And you're like, oh, hey, maybe this team is starting to figure something out here. Well, you can't even say that yet. They haven't shown that consistently. But a win is a positive step forward. Okay? So what this means for the org is this needs to be the team that they stick with, by the way. I'm going to take 2 minutes to say this. TSM, please, if anybody really does listen to this podcast for some reason, which I'm very grateful for and appreciate, and if you take my opinion into consideration whatsoever, then that would be a huge ego boost for me. I'm sure you don't. It's fine. But I'm going to put this out there anyways. Stick with these 5 guys for the rest of the year, regardless of what happens. Okay? Like, Instinct and Soul looked really good in their first week in Academy and then kind of shit the bed afterwards. The team didn't play very well. Sounds like Shenyu was potentially a huge detriment to that. Hyper was clearly a huge detriment to that as well. I feel bad for Takeover because he's actually playing really well this split. He has clearly learned a lot and actually looks like a really nice prospect for TSM overall. But aside from that, just stick with these 5 guys. Just stick with them. What's the worst that happens? You don't make playoffs? So what? You're not going to Worlds anyways. Like, I would prefer this team make playoffs, and we're going to talk about that here after this. But if you stick with these 5, at least you'll get an idea of what's working, what's actually working, and what's not. 2-game sample size is not enough. They have a chance to have at least 11 games together. That would be the longest that we had 5 players play together all year long. Make it happen. Commit to it. Let these guys learn, right? The easiest way for Instinct and Soul to learn is to play games against people who they will be potentially playing against for a good portion of their career. The more confidence they get, the more they learn, the better they will get. Plain and simple. Now, let's talk about what this means for TSM. We are now 3-6, which is freaking awesome. For some reason, the LCS standings on Google continuously are not showing Dignitas to be 2-7. Whatever. This thing isn't, I think, very accurate. You know what? We're gonna go find something else here. I don't know why that thing is so inaccurate. Okay. All right. So Dignitas and Immortals are sitting down there at 2-7. We finished the first half 3-6. Guys, that's so much. Like that win is just so huge. 3-6 is just so much better than 2-7. Instead of being 5 games away from 500, you are 3 games. I know that's how it works. It's basic math, but it's like that is just massive. You are 1 game right now behind Golden Guardians and Cloud9. That's it. 1 game. That's crazy. I mean, Cloud9's a really good team, and you're only 1 game behind them. Like, sure, they had that 0-3 start. They're 4-2 since. Like, I get it. I really do understand that. But it's still, like, a massive deal for this team to be in the... They're in the playoff hunt now. By winning that 1 game against FlyQuest. They not only have beaten the curse of FlyQuest and Jose Dioto just randomly beating us all the time, which sucked even when they weren't good. We're kind of flipping it on them. They're supposed to be really good. We're not, and we beat them. I would love to see that continue next year. That'd be some nice revenge against them. But what I love the most is that TSM, I mean, there's a world where you can win a couple of games and you're in. You know, I mean, I know this is going to sound really stupid, but like that's just such a huge, I cannot explain it to you guys. I mean, 8th place last split was 6 wins. Okay, 6-12 from CLG. All right, that makes you get into the playoffs right there. Okay, I think you got to be at 6 or 7 wins, which is either a repeat of 3-6 or you win 1 extra and go 4-5. And that gets you to 7-11, which is, pretty good. I just want to see this game in a 3-game playoff. I don't expect them to win it. If they did, that would be freaking crazy awesome, but I really don't expect that to happen. What I want is, this team needs to win 3 more games. So let's walk through this here. I think they're better than Dignitas. I think they're better than Immortals. Okay, that's 2. You need to find 1 or 2 more wins. Apparently they can beat FlyQuest. If that's the case, then there's your 3rd win. I think they could probably beat Golden Guardians. And maybe even CLG. If they... I don't know. Golden Guardians would be tough, but I think Golden Guardians are definitely beatable. So, if they could sneak a win and if they can seriously find a way to go 5-4, dude, that's 8-10. I don't think I will have ever been happier about an 8-10 start in my entire life. Ever. Seriously, ever. That would be so big. 8-10 guarantees you a playoff spot. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I think our expectations should be 3-6, not 5-4 in the second half. But I mean, guys, there's a world where that can happen. I mean, that this team is capable of it, and they're showing that right now. Looking ahead, and we'll talk about this on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. Sorry, make sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay. I think looking at this, we've got 100 Thieves up next, and then Immortals. 100 Thieves, in my opinion, are beatable. People aren't going to like that, but I do think that 100 Thieves are a beatable team. I don't, they got blown out in the one game by, who was this? By Cloud9. Then they went on and they won their game against CLG, which is not a huge surprise. I really think CLG are kind of coming back to earth here. But I'm very intrigued right now. I'm really, really intrigued by the way that this team is moving. And I think there's a world where if they can do what we would hope that they would do against Immortals, then they have Liquid and Golden Guardians. Like you could theoretically go 2-2 in those games. Next thing you know, you're 5-8. You're 5-8 at that point, and you need one win over your last 5 games. I mean, there are bad teams, and there are a lot of teams that lose in this league that shouldn't, and there are teams that win that shouldn't. And we even play Dignitas before we head into the 3-game weekend. I mean, if we can, in all reality, be 3-3 heading into that final Super Week where we will play CLG, Cloud9, and FlyQuest, like, it's pretty good for us, because theoretically you could go 2-1 in Super Week if this team has really started to figure it out. I still am not, going to tell you that they're going to beat any of the top half teams. I still, this is one win. We're excited, but I don't see us beating Evil Geniuses anytime soon. We shouldn't beat Team Liquid anytime soon. We shouldn't beat 100 Thieves. We shouldn't beat Cloud9, and we probably shouldn't beat FlyQuest again. CLG, Golden Guardians, Dignitas, and Immortals, though, I honestly think we can beat. I think the CLG game would be a bit of a toss-up. I think the Golden Guardians game would be a little bit of a toss-up. But I'm already thinking that this team is better than Immortals and Golden Guard, or not Golden Guardians, Dignitas. I think that could be a possibility. We will have to see here. You guys will be able to check out my power rankings that'll be coming out on Wednesday or Thursday. Can't remember which one. And you guys will have to see, because I don't know, man, but that game was pretty promising. This TSM team looks pretty decent, and as long as they don't target ban Instinct too much, there's a world where this team can actually play around a couple different comps with the same sort of purpose. So, hope we pick more Swain, by the way. I really like the idea of Swain right now for this team. I just think it's very consistent, can carry. I think it can do a lot of damage. It just can be tanky. I think I would really like that. So, all right. That's going to be it. Until then, we're going to, see what happens here. Hopefully they don't change the team. I was going to record right after this for the Thursday show, but I realized there's still a super small chance because Tactical looked so good. Again, I think it would be impossible for them to be able to explain why they would change out Tactical or, why they would change out Instinct, Soul, or Chime. But I guess, that's always a banger at TSM, so who knows. Yeah. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until it seems like we're pretty certain about who's playing this weekend to record the Thursday show. Like, it might be Thursday morning. That's how That's how much I may want to wait, because I had to end up recording like 3 different shows essentially last week because of the changes and everything. One that will never be seen. I don't even remember what I said in it. If you like this show, please take a second to like, subscribe, and comment if you're watching on our YouTube channel. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your realistic expectations, and then what are your hey, you know what? No, let's do this. Who are the teams that you think TSM could beat right now? Let me know in the comment section below. That's what I want to know. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss another episode. Also, I want to make this the #1 TSM podcast on all podcasting platforms. I think we're already there, but, it doesn't hurt for people to leave some reviews if you're feeling so kind. You can share this with your friends. You can hit me up at TGH Robert Haynes or the Gamehouse at TGH Esports. Also, check out thegamehouse.com for a bunch of cool articles that'll be coming out this week on a bunch of different things, including some of the things with the LCS. With that, thank you for tuning in. The show comes out every Monday and Thursday during the regular season and is exclusively for your TSM earholes. I'm Robert Haynes, and this has been Talking TSM. See you all on Thursday.